Hey folks, Segasonicfan here, and today I'm going to be trying my hand at fixing this Singer Fashion Mate 3342 sewing machine. I just repaired another Singer sewing machine, so I'm feeling confident that even though this one is in quite disassembled shape, that I'll have some luck. I found this on the sidewalk. Somebody left it in pieces, but they left it in pieces with all the parts in little bags. So I thought, well, somebody really cared enough to really give this a good effort at fixing it. Let's see if I could bring it all the way home. One of the really nice things about sewing machines is, especially Singers, they have a ton of documentation. There's a ton of access to aftermarket parts and replacement parts, even OEM stuff, that is really different from any other kind of machinery or electronics that I've worked with. They are actually extremely well supported. And so that gives me a lot of confidence that whatever is wrong with this, I will be able to fix it. I've got what is very useful here. I did a search for this, and this is the exploded parts diagrams, is the name of these. And this is where you have these diagrams that show, in a lot of detail, every single part that assembles. I should say first, though, off top, this video is just going to be an explanation. I'm not going to go into actual showing repairs just yet. That's the part one of this video. So if you've noticed, all of my newer videos are following this current trend where I do part one as an explanation and an overview, and then part two will actually start going into the reviews, the repair, part three, different steps and so forth. All of my videos are organized into playlists. So if you're interested in seeing other repairs of this sort, check out my playlists, and you can do that. And that's another way to find the multiple parts for repair videos like this. So what's going on with this guy? Well, it lights up, as you can see, and more than that, it actually actuates with the needle depressing up and down, and even the bobbin assembly turning. So that's all a really good sign. That tells me, of course, that the motor's working fine. Obviously the pedal's working, the power, lights, all that kind of stuff. And so we're really looking at some minor mechanical issues, is my feeling about this. One thing I do need to figure out is kind of why this bobbin tray is rattling like that. If that's normal use, I'm suspecting it's not. And so I'm going to sort of look into what locks that into place a little bit better. I've never owned one of these machines before, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of research and find out all about that. One thing, of course, there's this one of the threading catches for the main needle thread clearly was taken out. It's very interesting what things this person decided to remove, because what would that have to do with anything? Why would you ever remove that? It's very strange. But just as a little bit of a kind of a repair 101, when you see a bunch of hardware like this removed, it can be a little overwhelming, because you're like, I don't know what screws go to what. And one little trick, of course, you want to look at the diameter of the opening. And as you can see, that's a very small diameter over here for that screw that I'm going to be putting in. And then you want to think of the material. This is plastic, which means that the material is going to be kind of a self-tap, wood screw type threading. So for all you people, all you hardware nuts out there, this is like a machine screw. It wouldn't be this. This is a very fine thread. And this guy would be closer because it is a self-tapping wood screw type thread, which kind of travels more in a diagonal fashion. And you can look up wood screws versus machine screws to get more of an idea. But I think our best candidate is actually going to be this guy, because it's a very small diameter. It's a self-tap machine screw, and it's not very long, which leads me to believe that it would be just enough to hold in this guy and get that. So that's kind of my first step. Obviously, this is the foot that goes on below the needle. This is probably another catch that they removed for who knows what reason. And I do have to figure out what this metal spacer and this spring is all about. And, of course, figure out where these other bits of hardware go. The plastic will be a little bit easier, but I've got my work cut out for me. This person disassembled a lot of this thing. And as far as I know, I couldn't find any video that's like a complete disassembly. And why would there be? That would be kind of strange. So that's why I'm making this one a document. I've also got some extra parts here. These were all in the accessories bin, so I'm hoping most of these are accessories. This one doesn't look like an accessory. This actually looks like an LED holder. But I'll have to kind of discern there are some like product, beginner owner videos that will probably go through the accessories. Most of these do look like accessories. This is kind of like a foot accessory. So, and then they actually call this the screwdriver. I guess it's meant as a flathead screwdriver, but probably doubles as something else. I'm a total newbie to sewing, so don't expect me to know all the lingo here. But yeah, I'll be learning as I go, and I think a great way to learn, if you're like me and you do engineering stuff and you're getting into sewing, is by repairing a sewing machine. So then you get to see how the operation works and kind of go from there. So yeah, and then of course I'll be checking the this is what winds the bobbin over here, so I'll be checking all that kind of stuff. But the cool thing about sewing machines is as long as the motor actuates, especially if you get movement, there's not, I'm hoping, at least I'm told, there's not much that can go wrong. And so a lot of this is just going to be reassembly, I think. And what I've read too is that sometimes people try to oil these newer machines, which don't actually need to be oiled, from what I've read. And which makes sense. I mean, oiling is something you do after like 20 years, for small moving parts like this that probably have good lubricant on them. Anyway, we'll see. More to come. Segasonicfan signing out. All right, folks, Segasonicfan here, and things are looking quite good for this Singer 3342 repair. Boy, there was a lot of parts that I had to figure out, and I could not have done it without my printed out Singer exploded parts view. This is from singeronline.com, so thank you to those folks for supplying this, because this, of course, made it really helpful to find out what was what. One thing to note when you're using this, though, that's very bizarre, and I don't know the reasoning behind this. You'll see you have a bunch of numbers here, right? And then those on the following page correspond to a description and a part number for what those numbers are. But as you'll notice, there's a lot more numbers than there are in the parts list. They literally just skip numbers. So it'll be like 1, 3, 7, 12. They'll just like skip some of these parts. And I was thinking, well, maybe they're just reusing the part numbers across pages. But that's not true either, because there'll be like a part number 2 or something, and that'll be different on different exploded view sheets. So I'm not sure what that's all about. That sure made it a little trickier. But in any case, by the way, I put electrical tape on my fingers because I cut myself earlier doing a repair. And that's quicker than finding a Band-Aid. So it looks weird, but that's why that's happening. But yeah, so anyway, that's the one drawback to using this. That and the really high resolution makes it a little hard to see sometimes. But it certainly helped to at least get an idea of what some parts go where. The first thing I did when I do these kind of repairs, especially important, is lay out all your screws, all your hardware, anything that has matching threads and length, and look at the heads of the screws as well. And that'll really give you an idea, group things together, right? So I noticed I had like 6 screws that look like this, 4 screws that look like this, 2 screws that look like this, that are matching, right? So then when I go through the exploded parts view, I can see, well, the base has 4 screws that are missing. Oh, look, there's 4 screws. They're all, self-tap kind of wood screws. Okay, that makes sense. We're not self-tapping, I should just say coarse threaded wood screws. And so, I went through it like that, and, there's a bunch of screws here that I had to figure out. Whoever took this apart, I don't know why they took it apart, but I had to, try to work backwards and see what they did. Well, I also noticed that there was only one screw had a flat head. That's usually an indicator that that's going to be a user serviceable screw. If everything else is like Phillips or a combination Phillips and flat, as in the case with this unit, there's a combination Phillips and flat for a bunch of the screws. So yeah, but one of the most useful ones for the bottom plate, they show you a bunch of screws and where those go. And there's a mixture, one of the weird things, there's a mixture of machine screws and wood screws, coarse threaded wood screws, for both like the side of the case as well as the bottom. There's like a big mixture of screws for the case, and that's kind of unusual and kind of annoying, but it's what they did. And then the other thing was I found that the case for the bobbin rattles quite a bit. And my friend, I don't know much about sewing, my friend was like, yeah, that looks like that could be a bad thing. So I really assumed that was the problem, why this person took it apart and threw it out. which is where I found it on the sidewalk being thrown out. So I was thinking, oh, okay, maybe I need to fix that. And especially because the only things I could not find a home for were this screw, this kind of sleeve for a screw or something, and then this spring. Those 3 parts, I don't know where they go, and I'm like hoping they're not too important. It looks to be working, and I wish I knew where those parts go, but I really, without having all of the numbers in that exploded parts view actually labeled out, it made it really, really hard. I'll do another deep dive later to try to find where those go. But as of right now, this is working. And so, I'm not going to be too upset here. You can see I did this little stitch, just a really simple straight stitch. As you can see, I'm a master seamstress. And it looks fine to me in my amateur eyes, top and bottom, which means that even if that bobbin case is rattling, seems to be working okay. So I had to replace this hook was unscrewed. This hook was the one down here, number 6 was unhooked and removed. There was a bunch of hardware that was just pulled out. It was really weird, but a little bit of diligence, a little bit of patience, and using this awesome exploded parts view and some organizing kind of meticulous patience, I should say, can really yield results sometimes. One cool thing about this too is it has an it automatically threads through the eye of the needle. It's semi-automatic. You have to do some steps. It can be a little tricky sometimes. In fact, sometimes it might even be easier just to thread the needle yourself. But it sure is cool when you see it work. And this is my first kind of modern sewing machine. I fixed up a vintage one earlier today. So you can check out that video. I do organize everything into playlists. And you can expect more sewing from me now that I have 2 working machines that I got for free. So more to come on that. Hopefully this video is useful. Thanks to all the folks out there making really cool how-to and repair type videos. I couldn't find anything like too specific for repairing this guy. Although I take that back. There was one guy in like Southeast Asia that was doing like I'll try to link it in the description. They had a really good video showing a close-up of removing the bobbin case. And that actually helped me quite a bit just to know that mine wasn't broken. I think still isn't broken. But that video was not in English, so I could only sort of take away so much from it. But the video quality of it was excellent, so it gave me some things to look for. And I'll be diving deeper into the different stitch settings and stuff. Obviously, I have this on a really basic one. I should probably test the reverse stitch as well. This is what makes it go in reverse. Oh, the foot's not down. Interesting. Maybe that's what I need to look at. Is that supposed to go further down? I don't know. I'm going to be exploring this, trying to find out what that one missing spring is going to. Because that might be important. But yeah, anyway, I can just do a straight stitch on this, which is pretty cool for something I found on the sidewalk. This is Segasonicfan, signing out. Hey folks, Segasonicfan back here with my Singer 3342 repair, and it looks like my problems with this kind of wiggling and it kind of popping and moving and making some noise really has to do with this piece of plastic. And it's creating some like kind of loose threads on the bottom when I'm sewing. I'm also getting an occasional missed stitch, so I'm guessing that's why whoever threw this out on the sidewalk was doing that. And so there's some great videos talking about how to remove this. One of them I think is in Hindi, and that one was a little bit hard to follow, but basically there's a little brake mechanism that you can kind of bend out a spring a little bit. I guess that helps people sometimes. That's really not my issue though. My issue, I believe, is with just the plastic getting messed up and deformed. And you can see here, there are multiple needle strikes. And this is why I thought it would be helpful to show it under my microscope. These little spots here are where the needle has just gone clear through the plastic. And I'm trying to find out what actually causes that. You can see here it also nicked a couple times here as well. So I certainly am getting closer to the root of the problem with this bobbin holder, tray, container thing, whatever you want to call it. The needle was bent in the machine when I got it too, so that also would indicate that this is how it got bent, as it was hitting this tray. Strangely enough, though, I am able to do some successful stitches sometimes. Gosh, you can see here it really dragged over. But and these trays are like really ridiculously overpriced. They're like $20, $17 to $20 to get it replaced. And you know, the whole machine fully working is like $130, $100 maybe, probably like 50, 60 if I try to sell it used locally. I'm not sure I want to keep it. I might just fix it up and get it to a good home. So that's why I'm not jumping at the opportunity to pour money into this thing for parts. And this part is a little bit too much of a pain to 3D print, but I am considering it. The problem is you do have these metal bits here as well that you'd have to remove and apply later, and you know, there's some kind of high precision stuff going on here. It's doable. It's just work. It's just a lot of work. I'm not sure I want to do it. But yeah, paying $17 is also ridiculous for these things. So I am starting to see why people are a big fan of the vintage machines. These newer ones with their plastic is a little bit less impressive. But anyway, just thought I'd show this video to give folks an idea, because there was another, I'll try to link in the description some other really good videos I found explaining these issues, but nobody, you know, not everyone has access to a microscope, so you can really see clearly the needle strikes there. And they were saying you can kind of sand these down, because I guess the thread gets caught on this. And so, you know, that's certainly a worthwhile suggestion. I have a rotary sander, which I really like, which is this Works rotary sander. And I have kind of this polishing bit, which I might use, or I might just use, you know, a bit like this, a little precision polishing bit, and kind of get in there, smooth everything out, see how the machine likes it. But what worries me is like this part where it's just a chunk of plastic missing. And I wish I had more up-close pictures of what things are supposed to look like. But I might end up having to bite the bullet and just buy another one of these and seeing how that fares. We'll see. I'm also going to ask a friend of mine who's really good at sewing machines and see what they say. But yeah, I'll definitely post back here with whatever happens. And thanks for watching. This is Segasonicfan signing out. Hey folks, back here with my Singer Fashion Mate 3342 repair. And I've made quite a lot of progress, I think, thanks to some really awesome videos. DB Kate, there's like a weird name for this person's username, but I will post their link in the chat. They showed how to adjust the timing on this specific model. And then the Sewing Doctor video, how to adjust the timing on your Singer sewing machine, really helped me on, you know, knowing how to adjust it, like where to actually position the timing. So I think I've figured out, you know, you kind of have to go backwards in time and figure out, how did the machine break? I was not the original owner, and so I don't know what happened. But kind of, you know, doing some, you know, kind of detective work, I think I figured it out. We'll find out as soon as I put this all back together. But basically, you have this brake here. This little spring-loaded brake. And there's lots of videos about this. These are actually pretty interchangeable with a lot of Singer sewing machines. There's not a lot on the 3342 that I'm showing here, but these this bobbin case and a lot of this stuff is very interchangeable. Fortunately, they didn't totally rework the design between units. You have two screws here, two screws here. I haven't messed with these yet, but they basically hold in this bobbin case, and this metal part here around the case rotates. By the way, don't put your finger in when it's on. You'll cut yourself and you'll bleed everywhere, and that's what happened to me, and that's why I got tape on my finger. Anyway, don't be smart. Don't be like me. But yeah, you got these two screws here, two screws here. You can loosen those. There was one video. I'll try to find, that person was helpful too. Gosh, so many videos I've watched now. But you can loosen those to try to get this out. What I found, mine actually came out if I turn the unit off and I just hand crank it, you know, and while kind of gently trying to pull up, I can get it out. But this is supposed to be kind of a loose fit, and it's kind of a weird design because essentially the bottom of this is oiled, and so this outer casing rotates a bunch around this plastic piece. And I'm sure that wears down over time, but what you gonna do? It's a weird design. And so what happens though is, whatever, also I should also point out that I believe the top here, this little plastic here, looks like it fits in with this plastic opening here to further hold this down. But this will be loose one day, or somebody's gymming with it, or dust or crap gets in here, who knows. And this thing starts like spinning out of its original position, moves past the brake, moves past this part, whatever. And it's pretty bad. And so anyway, this got out of alignment. And then when that gets out of alignment and this is spinning in the wrong way or whatever, then the needle starts stabbing this thing because it's not in alignment anymore. It's really bad. And I think the engineers kind of designed for this a bit because this is kind of a softer plastic, and I guess it's meant to save your system when the needle starts jabbing it. But geez, talk about a bad day. And so the Sewing Doctor has this really great video where they show how the timing works, and I recommend checking that video out. But I tried to copy what they said, which is you want to move your into the farthest left position, like so. You'll see the needle, I moved it to the left there. And so he says move it all the way to the left before you do this adjustment. And look for, you want to get it to where the eyelet is just over the lip there, because that's where it's going to grab the thread and loop it around, joining with the bobbin. I don't know as of yet if the eyelet's supposed to kind of come up a little bit higher here. I might have to adjust it one more time. But this seems to follow his instructions pretty clearly. And if I move, you can see here, if I move it back to center, I guess that gives me a little more time to grab the thread. So that's why he says keep it to the left, because that way that's where the timing sort of begins. And you'll get your full stitch that way if you're doing like a left to right stitch. So yeah, and as soon as I fix this timing, all of a sudden this needle is not scraping anymore, because it was scraping originally. And the original needle that came in this thing, this is a replacement one, but the original one was actually bent. So someone, this thing had a hard life. Somebody got the bobbin case out of alignment. The timing for this frame for the bobbin was out of alignment. The needle started stabbing the bobbin case. Then it bent the needle. Then somebody disassembled half of this machine. And I had to use an exploded parts view document to try to figure out where all the screws and springs and stuff went. It was crazy. So yeah, if you don't know what you're doing, like, I don't know, man, go to a sewing repair shop, please, or document what your repairs are meticulously, because wow, putting all this back together was not fun. Anyway, I'm sorry I'm rambling. Let me go ahead and show you how I got the timing working. And this was thanks to another video, by the way. I'm just sort of adding on to it and sort of letting you all know specifically for the Singer 3342. So you have a, what is this, a 2.5 and a 2 millimeter Allen wrench. Okay. And the 2 millimeter, you loosen this screw, this set nut here. It's a set nut. And it's really tight. It's got thread lock on it, so you have to really give it some force. And then down in here, you have this one. And then when you rotate it, there's a second one on that same shaft here. So you have two other Allen set nuts. Those are a different measurement. Those are 2.5 millimeter. The larger ones are here. The smaller one is there. Once you loosen all three of those, you'll be able to freely rotate this frame for the bobbin to match the alignment that you so desire to get the timing correct. And this seems to have helped me a lot. The other thing I did, which I don't exactly recommend, but I wasn't, I don't know, probably shouldn't even be mentioning this, but I was sort of desperate because I didn't know it was a timing issue at first. And you can see I sort of sanded down in here along there. And I hope that doesn't cause me any issues. But I think it might actually be a good thing. Don't take my word for it, because it was really rough in there. And I think that might have resulted, that was a result of the needle scraping and just alignment stuff. and I worry that the thread would get caught on that. So I'm hoping that'll be a good thing that I did that. We'll certainly find out soon. I am actually feeling surprisingly optimistic given all this stuff here. But and then you'll see when you put this in, this little piece of plastic hits this little spring-loaded brake. Don't put too much stock in that brake. I hesitate to even call it a brake. It's a really dumb, simple little spring thing that doesn't do a whole lot. So you can see now that it's in there, you know, that's sort of what they call the brake. These are the brakes. What I think generally makes your bobbin pop actually has very little to do with that brake. At least from what I'm seeing so far, I think it has more to do with this getting bent or not aligned properly. And so I'm going to go ahead and loosen these and see if I can get that in there properly. But I'm not too worried about this sort of rattling a bit, which it was doing. And I mean, we'll find out if that's a big problem. Maybe it'll be a problem later. But that's not, I mean, that was not by no means my main issue. My main issue was this thing just being totally out of alignment and the needle just scraping and doing really bad stuff. So I'm going to center it now. I'm going to re-thread everything. And you'll see here it kind of has a little bit of play, which I think it's supposed to. I could be wrong about that, though. And it could need to have this thing a little bit pushed down. If you have one of these and you want to leave some comments about how much play the bobbin case is supposed to have, that certainly would help. I could not find any information on that. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty optimistic. I'm going to go ahead and give this a shot and see if I can get some nice threading going on. No more scraping sound, which is really, really nice. And yeah, and so yeah, and then also just so you know, this screw right here, I wouldn't mess with this if you can avoid it, but that screw also is, that lever and that screw is what moves. You see how when I move this knob here, that's what moves the centering of your needle there. So there was one video that was explaining that they had a centering issue and that helped them. Something to keep in mind. Obviously the cover just has a single screw and pops back on. But if you're not familiar with tinkering with plastic and stuff like that, you know, be warned. This one's not super fun to work on. Also, really kind of annoying, the case, when you're undoing these screws, there's all these different kinds of screws. And so you really want to make sure you don't mix up your machine screws, which are these really fine threads, and your coarse plastic kind of wood tap screws, which are these threads. And then this one, it's like 3 different kinds of screws for the case. I don't know why. It's kind of silly. And then you have this really big guy, which goes here. You've got this guy, which goes here. And then you've got a mixture of the coarse and machine screws for the bottom. So don't force anything. Go slow. Definitely make sure you got some time to work on this thing if you're going to be taking it apart. And then get that 2mm and 2.5mm Allen wrench from your metric Allen wrench kit, and you should be good to go. I'll post a little follow-up though once I get this sewing and let you all know. Yeah! All right, and here we are now with the Singer all put back together after changing that timing. And I suck at sewing, don't make fun of me. I'm just using this test fabric. And what have we got? But a very beautiful looking stitch. No more missing stitches and no more looping in the back. Look at that. It's the one that's closest to me, closest to the bottom of the camera, is the newest stitch. The other ones are what it was looking like back when it was broken. You can obviously tell. So yeah, that looks like that fixed it. Wow, thanks so much to people on YouTube making those super helpful repair videos. And hopefully this one and this, there's different parts to this. Check out my playlist if you have trouble finding the other parts to this video or other sewing repair videos, sewing machine repair videos, because I have everything organized into playlists. And yeah, hopefully this helps some people. I'm excited to have a working sewing machine. Segasonicfan out.